Hey everybody, Preston Flatt back again. Today we're going to do a question or two, and it's going to be read by my former missionary companion from back in our Taiwan days when we used to knock on doors together. Remember that, brother? Yeah, I remember that. Okay, man, so what is today's question? Today's question is, it's about having your center clear, man. That's what it's about. Because, you already told us how to do all these really cool, groovy, mystical procedures and stuff. But what I'm wondering is all the auxiliary exercises a person can do. That if they do that first or do that at the same time, it'll help them experience what you've been teaching us. Is that possible? Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, son, because there are some considerations in how to have your center clear. I already used the example in the past that if there's a tunnel in front of you and you're in a car and your arms are all inside the car neatly, and the car fits perfectly through the tunnel, you're going to be good. But if you are attached to things in the outer world, like if you have something that's so big you can't even put it in the car, and so you got your arm hanging out the window, hanging onto this thing, and then you think you're still going to go through the tunnel. No, man, it's going to chop your flipping arm right off. You won't even get through the tunnel. So there's a way of being well formed, of having your center clear. But there's also a way that if your sense of who you are, where you are, if it's diffuse or not clear or malformed in some way, then doesn't it make sense that it'd be difficult for you, if you sample a point on one side and one on the other, it'll be difficult for you to feel that you're really, like where you are, that you're really in the center and that your center is clear. So there are a few ways, I don't know if they're shortcuts or what, but there are things that I've done that can help make the center more clear. One of them is to spin. It's spinning like a Sufi mystic. They'll put the arms out and they'll just spin around and around. But what happens in that is when something is spun, all things are thrown to the outside. And the one that spins, just by virtue of the fact that they can stay in the center and not fall over while they're spinning, that means they are staying in the center relative to the external world. And so very literally, the person's experience can be organized around a center by spinning. It's one way to make your center clear. And so you do have traditions like the Sufi mystics, the Whirling Dervishes, where they literally spin, and the one that spins is in the center, and that matches. It just makes the center clear. It makes the sense of where you are clear, because all around you is moving and changing, but the one that rests in the center is steady. So if you practice in that way, then you've already sorted through your life experience in a steady way, in a way that keeps you centered and in the middle. And then when you go and you do something like this, gathering a point on one side and a point on the other, and resting in the midst of them, surfing and abiding in the middle, in the place that doesn't miss the mark, well, your sense of where you are is going to be clear, so you can clearly be in this place. And as contrasted to somebody that doesn't have a very clear sense of even who they are, where their center is. If they're attached to something outside of themselves, like if I had this new car and I was really attached to it, I didn't want any scratches, made to it. And if someone scratches that car and I'm attached to it, then it's just the same as scratching me. It's like, how dare you do that to my car? And then my concern, my concentration, my attention, everything goes from just simply being here to being malformed, because it'll be here, but it'll also have a big old area extending out and surrounding the car. So my life experience in that case would be somewhat malformed, because I'm not just here, I'm attached to that. So there's a way to release attachment to the outside world. Spinning's one way, because when you spin, it's a no-brainer. You just literally, your center becomes more and more clear in the same way that the center of a hurricane, when it spins, produces the eye of the hurricane, the peaceful center, which is right at the heart of it. But also, there's another way to do it, another helpful exercise, and that's from the Tai Chi. Some of you that have tried the Tai Chi, when you first start out, you'll know that when you do what's called push hands, which is the sport of Tai Chi, which is also a way to help make your center really clear. When you first start out, if you're too stiff, if you're not yielding, even if someone pushes way out here on your arm, it's still going to control your whole body, because you're going to be in one piece, all in one piece, just like a statue. So that's kind of the same example of the car. Like if I'm attached to the car, then I'm really not, my center is not clear. But the Tai Chi has an exercise called push hands, in which the person that you're working with will actually push on a shoulder, and for example, they'll push here, and when they do, you learn to give to those that ask of you. That if someone wants your coat, you give them your cloak also. So they push here, and this cloak side comes forward and bops them upside of the head. No, but you can see that if someone pushes here, if I was thinking of myself as being in this point, I'd be pushed over. That's what it's like when you're all in one piece and unyielding. But if I can move my center of gravity and have my center here, then what does it matter if someone pushes on the side? Because I can just pivot, I can stay where I am basically, and just pivot around it. And that accomplishes something very similar to what the Sufis do when they spin, because there's still the one in the center. And as the arriving, like inquiries in the form of pushes and pulls and that kind of thing, as they alight on the body or on your experience, through it all you practice just having your center clear. So what they'll do is they'll push on this side, you'll learn to yield while keeping your center clear. They'll push on this side, you'll still be in the center and all together and have a center clear while even if the person pushes or pulls like that. So at first, if they push on the outside, you can do that, but then they can push closer to the center, and you still do that. And then the more you practice, they can push right. The sport is actually to try to find the other person's center, and to try to find that center, and then having found it, to move them off their place. But the one that's being pushed, their task is simply, I mean, at least for this one exercise, is to divide the incoming push or pull into right and left, and to send it off to one side or another. So that even if it arrives straight on like this, you can still turn and yield and send it to one side or another. But in order to do that, your center is really super thin. I mean, super small. I guess you could look at it as being super small in the sense that the incoming pressure is going to be redirected to one side or another. And the person that's pushing on you, as they try to find your center, to them it'll seem elusive and small. So I don't know if that's the best example, but I just wanted to say that that's a systematic way of training. The Tai Chi is a systematic way of training, that you can make your center more and more clear. And that you do that by releasing the external. So if someone pushes here, at first I'm all in one piece, and they can control my entire body because I'm not yielding. But then when I learn to release those, I release these outer parts, and then the more I practice, the more that the external is released. And so you get this phenomenon of the camel that passes through the eye of the needle and entering in at the straight gate, basically. So, yeah, those are just a couple auxiliary exercises that I thought I'd mention to you, brother, since you were asking. And then meditation is really great because, yeah, with meditation you can release, the external world and stuff. But I want to say that you don't want to be malformed in the sense of your center. Like if I'm attached to something here, something there, and something there, then what I'm about is basically malformed, and someone can push in such a way as to move me off my place, and that would mean that my center is not as clear as it could be. And so even in Buddhism, the suggestion is to get this wisdom of the Buddha first, get this sense of where you are in the world, and the sense of if you are off track in some way, that you recognize that you know it and you can bring it back. Because this wisdom, this is something that is good not to move past, as contrasted to what? Somebody that their center, their sense of self and everything, it's all malformed and diffused, right? If that's the word. And they're just going to sit and meditate so that malformed mess of a sense of who they are, yeah, that's going to all quiet down, right? But it's, in a way, it's almost unusable in the sense that like a hurricane has its clear center, so it has its place of peace as it goes into the world and moves around and stuff. So it can move from that being in that place of peace, it can apply itself onto the world and like that. But if you just sit there and space out with your malformed sense of self, you don't have quite the same advantage. Rather, it's just like I don't know what it's like. It's like the difference between a hurricane being well-formed and just a storm in which clouds pop up here and there, and you can't really trace it on a weather map. You can't even know what's going to happen next. It's nice to be all together. So, yeah, consider those exercises the spinning of the Sufis, because that'll just the very fact that you can stay balanced because you take whatever you have, even if you're malformed in some way, right? You just spin that whole thing. And it'll make your center more and more clear. It's like, if you think of the example of a centrifuge in which they put the tubes of blood samples, they put it in this machine and they spin it, and the spinning itself will separate the tubes of blood samples out into understandable layers, with the more clear toward the center and toward the outer you'll have more the things will be thrown to the outside, basically. And it's the same with yourself. If you spin, your sense of self, your center will become clearer and clearer. And then when you do the surfing without a surfboard exercise, you'll be sitting in clarity. And you'll be so used to feeling when you start to lean to the outside that you can just bring it right back and you can stay here. So that's the advantage of spinning, and it's also the advantage of doing the Tai Chi exercise, having somebody push on you, and as they do, learn to yield, learn to stay centered while yielding the outside. Yeah, I hope that helps. Please like and subscribe, and if you want to look through the links below, man, it would help a lot. Maybe just look through them and see if there isn't anything that you just want to buy just to help my channel out and stuff. And I appreciate it. Much love. Anything to add, brother? Well, man, all right, you're good. Man, ho ho. All right, man. Thanks.